There's never been a more important time to talk about shopping for laptops under $800. Today, I'm going to talk about how to shop smart in this price range so you don't overpay for an awful laptop. Then I'll share my favorites. Of course, every laptop has trade-offs, so this list is to help you find which trade-offs you're willing to make. Maybe you don't care if the screen is a bit crappy or it has a low-travel keyboard. Maybe you just need performance for gaming. That's what we're here to help you figure out today. Hopefully, after this video, you'll realize you don't have to get a laptop that sucks just because you're not spending as much. Today, I'm only covering laptops that we've recently seen at or below $800. Keep in mind, many laptops have artificially high MSRP prices, designed to make you feel like you're getting a deal. We're trying to tackle this on our website by tagging laptops with good or great deal based on market trends and current prices for similar laptops. So then you'll know what is actually a fair price to pay. All the laptops I'll talk about today will be linked below and can be found on bestlaptop.deals. I do feel sort of crazy saying $800 or below is a budget laptop now, but that's the world we're living in. Let's talk about what you need to know when shopping. First, the screen is super important. You will likely see lots of low-resolution, dim screens with poor colors at this price point. If you have a choice, I would recommend a screen with at least 300 nits of brightness, but ideally 400. 400 nits is bright enough for you to see in most environments. You'll also want colors to look accurate. That means sRGB coverage around 90% or better. OLEDs have reliably better colors than IPS panels. Don't mess around with TN panels at all. They're pretty awful with dreadful viewing angles. If you like small text to look crisp, you'll also want a resolution high enough for the screen you're buying. While 1920 by 1200, also known as Full HD, may look good enough on a 14-inch panel, for many people, that same resolution spread over a 16-inch starts to look a little fuzzy. I would look at screens in person to get a sense of what looks good or bad to you before you buy. Trust me, if the screen is high resolution and bright with good colors, the manufacturer will be bragging about it. If it's on the low end, they'll be trying to hide it in their specs by saying things like 2K resolution. 2K may seem close to 2.5K, but in reality, it's actually half the pixels, nowhere near as clear. For the processor, you're going to want something that performs well enough for your specific use case. Something like the Neo is good enough for basic web browsing and office work, but very poor performing compared to many modern processors. If you aren't sure what your performance needs will be long-term, or if you're a student who may change courses, err on the side of caution and look for something that performs better. We'd recommend an Intel Core Ultra Series 2 or 3, AMD Zen 5, or any Qualcomm Snapdragon processor. These are tagged as decent performing or better on our website. Something like the Ryzen 5 40 in the IdeaPad Slim 3 we had in recently is something to avoid at all costs. It performs worse than even some of the poor performing processors. Something else to be aware of is that with Snapdragon laptops, you may run into application compatibility issues, especially with games or specialist applications. Office work and web browsing is no problem, and you can often get more performance from these laptops at the same price. Just look up if all your apps work before buying one. For memory, we highly recommend getting at least 16 gigs. But if you absolutely can't afford more than 8, just be aware that it may limit the types of projects and applications you can run. This is the only reason the Neo is not on this list. Now, what are the best laptops in this price range? Let's count them down. If you're just looking for the cheapest laptops actually worth buying, HP's lower-end OmniBooks, the 3 and 5, are going to start off our list at number 7, and 8, I guess. We recommend buying them around $600 or less. All the OmniBooks can come with a variety of processors and screens that can heavily affect their value. But the gist is that the 3 is the cheaper looking and feeling version of the 5. The 5 is smaller and more compact. It has a more modern looking bezel around the screen. It has a better trackpad and a better keyboard. And this specific 5 has a touchscreen. But its Core Series 3 processor, notice there is no Ultra in the name, is a really poor performer. So, if that's a deal breaker for you, you may want to consider this OmniBook 3 instead. With this one, you're actually getting slightly less deck flex and a fun blue color option, and it's using a Snapdragon processor, which is more powerful. But just like I mentioned earlier, be aware of the compatibility concerns with some applications. Last thing on both of these is that their ports are good enough, but they're not great. USB-C speeds only go up to 10 gigabits, which is lower than the common USB 4 or Thunderbolt 4 standard that most laptops use now. Those are basically the same. The rest of the ports are fine: HDMI 2.1, 5 gigabit USB-A port, headphone jack, but the USB-Cs may not support the full capabilities of your USB hub or dock. Here's how the webcam looks and sounds in the normal lighting conditions of my office. It does have IR for Windows Hello and a privacy shutter, but it looks pretty bad. In our number 6 spot is Acer's Swift Go 16 AI. You can frequently find the Qualcomm version in this price range, but I'm actually going to be discussing the AMD one today as we would consider that a better deal. This Swift Go is a better laptop than the OmniBook 3 for someone who wants a bit of performance and better app compatibility. While writing this, I found it with the Ryzen 7 445 right at $800. At that price, you're getting a well-built black metal chassis that looks sleeker than many on this list. It even has less deck and lid flex than we'd expect. It also has a large, fast port selection with a micro SD card reader and a touchscreen with good colors. Plus, it's got Wi-Fi 7. On the other hand, its keyboard is a bit mushy and its trackpad is rattly. It clicks a bit deeper than I would like, and it's not very quiet. Also, its 1920 by 1200 resolution at 16 inches is not great, as I said, but I didn't find it to be that big of a deal on this laptop since it's high quality in other ways. Someone like a coder, though, who's looking at small text all the time, may prefer a sharper display. As far as practicality goes, this is one of the better performing laptops on this list with a solid port selection. Here's how the 1440p webcam looks and sounds on the Acer Swift Go 16 AI. It does have IR for Windows Hello and a privacy shutter. It actually looks decent for the price range. Now we're at number 5, the LOQ. This is the most reliably good gaming laptop in the price range, but it can't always be found on sale. When it can, it's usually a prior year's version, so we'll be talking about one of those today. They can still provide enough performance for someone playing modern games, at least at medium or low settings. It will usually either come with an RTX 4050 or 5050 GPU. We would not suggest going below an RTX 4050, as then you start to get into integrated GPU territory. Sometimes a light user laptop might actually provide you with a better laptop experience for not a huge hit to performance. There are some budget laptops on sale now with decent built-in GPUs, like the Acer Aspire 14, and they're much cheaper. The Ultra 7 with the 140V GPU is the one to get. On that note, some of these cheaper gaming laptops, including the LOQ, don't even have iGPUs on their processors. This will lead to more warmth and horrible battery life because it can only use the dedicated GPU for graphics. Definitely Google the processor name to check that if it's a deal breaker for you. It would be for most of us here. Now, all that taken into consideration, let's talk the LOQ's pros. First, its screen. It is one of the only ones you'll find with good colors and a fast 144Hz refresh rate at its price. Its sturdy build quality puts it far above competitors like HP's Victus, and its full-powered GPU, which is not always a given. The biggest con of the older LOQ is that it is not very portable. It is big and heavy, and its battery life sucks, further taking away from how easy it is to carry around with you. But hey, being able to game for $800 is a pretty big bonus all by itself if that's all you need. Here's how the webcam looks and sounds for the 2025 LOQ. It does not have IR for Windows Hello, but it does have a privacy shutter, and I would say it looks surprisingly good. It actually is 1440p. One laptop that doesn't have as many compromises as you'd think is from a much smaller brand we've worked with before, Chewy. The Chewy Corebook Air 226V version is a great, better performing alternative to something like the XPS or Neo and costs a bit less. Unlike most of the other laptops on the list, it has a much brighter, higher resolution IPS screen, so content looks really good. It also offers decent performance for light productivity work, a reasonably solid chassis, Wi-Fi 6E, and a surprisingly comfortable keyboard. Its cons are that it has a loud, clunky trackpad and a less optimal port selection. It does have 2 fast Thunderbolt 4 ports, which is great, but it has a slower HDMI and USB port, which may throw you off with certain peripherals. It also feels a bit cheap when holding it, and it has some noticeable deck flex. It's just not as bad as we were expecting from a brand like this, and certainly one of the higher quality machines in this price bracket. Compared to something like the IdeaPad 1 or 3, this is way nicer. Something to note, though, is that Chewy's gaming and creator laptop listings may be much more misleading. They will claim gaming laptop-like performance, but don't deliver on it. This is a problem with many cheap brands like Nemo, Kiger, and Mulrace as well. We have a whole video about it, but with Chewy, it seems like their more basic use laptops are actually worth buying, delivering nice quality for the price. Here's how the webcam looks and sounds in normal lighting conditions in my office. It does have a privacy shutter on the webcam, but it does not have Windows biometrics. Number 3, The XPS 13 is one of the nicest new laptops you can currently get around $800 or less. Great for folks who know that all they need is a nice little laptop for office work and web browsing. It looks great, is built well, feels premium, is super portable and lightweight, has a nice high-resolution screen, high refresh rate screen, an accurate trackpad, a good webcam and mic, all the creature comforts you could want. The catch is that it performs poorly and can come with 8 gigs of RAM, which is even worse. The processor is considered poor performing, like the OmniBook 5 I talked about earlier. With the XPS, you are getting a nicer overall package, so the trade-off in performance may feel more worth it, but there are still other cons to be aware of. Its keyboard is low travel and not very comfortable. Plus, its ports are very limiting. It has only one somewhat slow 10 gigabit USB-C port on either side. If you're outside of the US, the XPS is also a lot less compelling because it's not nearly as affordable. We were very disappointed to see this move from Dell. In the US, at this price, it's the nicest new 13-inch laptop you can buy for basic use like web browsing and office work. Unfortunately, there are too many caveats for it to take our #1 spot. Here's how the webcam looks and sounds on the XPS 13 in normal lighting conditions in my office. We think it looks pretty good for the price range, but probably just okay in terms of all webcams. It also has IR for Windows Hello. Now, I said the XPS is the nicest new 13-inch because if you are open to refurbished or used, a MacBook Air 13 is a better laptop. The Air is a fantastic, reliable laptop, and there is a large secondhand market for them. But since it's not new and it's not always available at this price, we also couldn't put it in first place. We'd recommend an M3 or newer, which offers more performance than many of the laptops on our list. We'd also recommend it with 16 gigs of memory. Now, you've probably noticed by now that this list is full of compromises, and the Air manages to avoid most of them. You get decent performance, a haptic trackpad, high-resolution screen, stellar build quality, it's super lightweight and portable, there's no fan noise, and it has good battery life. But there are still compromises to be found. Firstly, the biggest one, it's used. That comes with an inherent risk, especially if you can't manage to buy from somewhere with a warranty or a return policy, both of which we'd highly recommend. Secondly, the Air has limited ports, although it at least has a headphone jack over the XPS. Lastly, it's macOS. Some people may prefer Windows, and you can't do much gaming on Mac. If you're okay with those compromises, this is a phenomenal laptop.
Here's the webcam on the older MacBook Air with M3.
Our winner for the best laptop under $800 is the OmniBook X14. Either the flip or clamshell is great around this price, but we'll be discussing the flip today as it's the one I saw on sale for $650, and I like the chassis a bit better. When it's on a good sale, you're getting a very sturdy, premium-feeling metallic chassis, an OLED screen, decent performance from a variety of processor options, and one of the more comfortable keyboards on this list. It is a little mushy, but it has a nice click to it. It's better than something like the XPS 14, which is more expensive and has a keyboard we don't like, where the squared keys feel too close to each other. On the OmniBook, there is a taper to the edge of each key, which makes me much less prone to typos. The trackpad also punches above its price, and so do the ports. There's a fast 40 gigabit USB-C port on either side, a fast 10 gigabit USB-A on both sides, then an HDMI 2.1 port, and a headphone jack. I only have one con on this laptop, and that is that its screen is very average. It's only 1920 by 1200, 60 Hz, around 300 nits, and it has a minor screen door effect. At this price point, the screen is still acceptable. Something else to note is that you are unlikely to afford the better configs of the OmniBook X in this price point. Those can come with more powerful processors and better screens. If one of those falls into this price point, absolutely buy it. Regardless, even the more affordable OmniBook X's feel like they have the least compromises on the list, and that's why they take our #1 spot. Here's how the webcam looks and sounds in normal lighting conditions in my office on the OmniBook X14. It does have IR for Windows Hello as well as a privacy shutter, and I feel that it looks pretty good. Now, this list was completely done, but when Josh and I sat down to review it, there was a killer sale on the Lenovo Yoga Slim 7X with a Qualcomm Snapdragon X2 chip. It has a lower resolution screen like the cheaper OmniBook X, and it's Qualcomm, which could be a pro or a con, but either way, this is a fantastic laptop in this price range. Best keyboard on the list by far, stunning OLED, good trackpad, premium build, and good performance. What more could you want? I prefer the aesthetics of the OmniBooks because they look more modern, but the Yogas are more enjoyable to use with their better keyboards. So, if a Yoga Slim 7 drops into this price range, it is a better buy than the OmniBook X. The reason it's Just an honorable mention here is because those price drops are much rarer than they are with HP, so I wouldn't bank on it being on sale by the time you see this video. If it is, we'll link it down below. Here's how the webcam looks and sounds on the Yoga Slim 7X in normal lighting conditions in my office. I think it looks pretty good, but the colors are a little oversaturated. It also has a privacy shutter for the webcam. If none of the laptops I've mentioned meet your needs or your budget, you can try out our laptop picker on our website, bestlaptop.deals. Since shopping in this price range is so heavily dependent on finding a good sale, you can use some tools we have over there to help you shop smart. We track prices across retailers, and you can even set a price drop notification for when the laptop you want drops to be a good deal. If you want more budget videos like this one, get subscribed and leave a comment down below to let us know. Until next time, I hope you all have a wonderful rest of your day, and I will catch you later.